So China is slowly flooding the market with finished e-bikes and I was very curious how they perform. My friend wasn't confident enough to build his own e-bike, so he decided to purchase and test it out, one of these Chinese ones. And he was nice enough to let me review it. I was very surprised when I saw the bike actually coming to his address in 3 boxes with no additional charges and no import fees. We tracked a little bit later the path they took and looked a little bit shady to avoid those taxes, but worked. Assembly was pretty straightforward, that took just a few hours and the bike was ready to go. The design of the bike is a personal taste and I have to say it works, but it doesn't look the best. And that's where I differentiate a little bit, because I like the high specs, nice and clean design for the lowest possible price. So we'll be comparing in this review this China finished model with my DIY e-bike 4.2. These e-bikes share some same components that make them look similar, but product overall is very different. Let me show you what I mean by looking at functionality. This mudguard serves no purpose, doesn't protect you from dirt, it's heavy and looks ugly. This bottom controller cover doesn't fit very well. It's bulky, it's not waterproof, but I get it. It's a universal box for many controls, it's affordable and does the job. Pedals on this bike are only meant to help it look like a bike. The front chainring is too small to pedal higher speeds and too big to drag the bike with flat battery. On my bike I use this crank transmission. This makes it a badass e-bike because it compensates 74-tooth chainring and allows me to pedal up to 80 kilometers an hour. The original signal lights were stripped off before the bike even left the house, because these are typical motorcycle signal lights that are bulky and sticking out, and for this size of an e-bike they just didn't look good at all. Let's take a look at some of the specs. This is 20S16P battery and has unknown cells inside and no BMS. The entire pack claims to have over 40 amp hours with 84 volts max charge. The same voltage as mine. My DIY bike has just 30 amp hours. When testing we noticed roughly the same distance per charge on both bikes. This is a sign not to get too caught up on some of the specs of these China e-bikes. Lack of BMS is a bit disappointing because it protects your battery and also keeps it healthy. Bluetooth BMS adds some cool features. You can wirelessly monitor your battery status while walking around the house and see the charge progression. Or you can set notifications. Let me explain you this BMS thing. It protects the battery, it controls individual cells, and if some cells are a little bit weaker from the factory and they discharge a little bit faster, that means overall when you use the bike they get stressed much more. You might end up with BMS that you fully charge, BMS sees different voltage on the different cells and slowly evens them up. So if this doesn't happen and your battery keeps being a little bit off with the voltage, you fully charge the battery. Some cells, these higher ones, are fully charged and the rest might be a difference, you know. And as you progress, the difference becomes bigger. And look and think what happens when you discharge the voltage. This one reaches the bottom while this one has most of the power in there. So this can actually lead to using only 50-30% of the entire capacity, and that's a real story that happened. At this stage I can't form objective opinion on these batteries because only time will show how they perform after few seasons of intense riding. I would have to take this battery out of the box, cut open the heat shrink, open it up and see how they actually make them in the factories, but my friend was not okay with that. Some of these e-bikes use cheap controllers, so you end up with low efficiency, higher noise level, and the entire riding experience is much rougher. This can easily be eliminated by choosing the right configuration. The best ones I found are listed down in the description. I'll keep this list up to date as I see interesting e-bikes online. You always find good deals down in the description. There's a sensitive weight to power ratio with electric bikes. It influences range, acceleration, battery stress, and lifespan. This particular e-bike has an unnecessary big motor that will never be taken advantage of. To me, this is a big design fail. It might not seem like a big deal, but having an extra 12 kilo on a rear wheel will be irritating soon enough. By default, they come with 5 amps charger that realistically charges with about 4 amps, meaning that the charge time will be around 10 hours. This makes this bike fully dischargeable only 2 times a day. Plugging it in overnight during work is your best bet for having 2 full rides a day. With a 20 amp charger, the battery charges with 90 minutes, which is what I have. This allows me to recover after an intense ride, relax, and the bike is quickly ready for another adventure. It becomes a game changer on one-way trips. If you go 80 kilometers one way and then you need to wait 10 hours for the bike to be fully charged, to me that doesn't make any sense to have an e-bike. When me and my friends go for a one-way trip and we have 1 or 2 charges on the way there, that's always the best fun because we plug those bikes in for an hour. We have fun, we chat, we have a meal, and by the time we are finished and we are ready to go, the bikes are ready. Overall, it performs pretty well. My friend was able to keep up with me the entire time. It does its job well. You might notice a clicking. That's because this particular bike doesn't have a pure synthwave controller. The throttle isn't super smooth and works based on a speed only, which is the biggest downer. On a motorcycle or my bike, throttle dictates amount of torque, not speed. Again, this is an order mistake and can be easily configured when ordering. And I did that for you already. Thank you, Lottie. Brakes are not ideal on this setup. I would especially point out the rear 160mm brake disc for 80 kg bike with 85 kg rider. But overall, these are 4-piston. Front disc can be a little bit better, but it's okay for the price. Acceleration is pretty good. Not as fast as my bike. Top speed was around 80 km an hour, which is great for an average consumer. But again, it all changes with a different controller. Don't expect any warranty, as I know as it goes with AliExpress, once your 40-day refund policy expires, you are on your own. I hope you're not naive enough that the factory would send somebody from China to fix your bike, right? Is this Chinese e-bike good for you? You decide. If you're not a builder, you don't have time or place to build yours, or you're not specs obsessed, this might be a good starting point. I noticed some sales are misleading. They say 10 kilowatt power and I see right away that the battery listed in the description is not capable to this output. So be aware of this, please. If you want to learn a new skill for a potential business in a new, fast-growing industry while having the best specs, you should consider building one. Picking or building up an e-bike can be an overwhelming process. I've been there too. It's a lot of information, a lot of options and a lot of parts. It's difficult to make a decision. Not sure if these parts are compatible together while trying to avoid expensive mistakes. That's why I created a detailed list of every single part you see on my e-bike version 4.2, including extra accessories and tools required. Every part includes a link where to purchase, price, and community comments for help and better deals. The video guide helps a lot of people who are not confident enough to build one without guidance. I record myself at the workshop building the e-bike version 4.2. Everything is well covered, including different battery chemistries, software settings and maintenance. No, you don't need to know how to weld a frame. It comes in a box ready to go. You just need to know how to solder and I'll teach you that. You can also go to my website mysuperebike.com to read more about the parts list and the video guide. I charge money for it because it is a big shortcut for you and it summarizes years of my development experience. I've wasted a lot of money developing them. Now you don't have to make the same mistakes. I do these videos for the community, so if you find them helpful and you want to reward it, you can do so by not skipping ads on my channel. If you want to know more about DIY e-bikes, you should definitely check out my other videos that cover exactly that topic. See you next time on my channel.